Thomas was alone. Wow, a weird first thought to have.
Indeed it is.
Thomas Was Alone is a puzzle platformer game created by Mike Bithell, and originally released as a Flash-based browser game in 2010. It was then expanded and released on Windows and Mac in 2012. It was then again expanded and re-released on PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 3 with new content in 2013. It was also recently released on iOS devices in May of 2014. Yeah, this is one of those games where almost no device is spared from it.
But today, we'll talk about the PlayStation 3 version. After all, I don't just scout the indie game section to look for just anything. Usually it's an interesting title that catches my eye. Mainly it's just colors. Oh, speaking of colors, let's talk about
the design. At first glance, the game is really nothing to look at. The graphics are very bleak, flat, and dark, and the characters are only represented by different colored quadrilaterals. As a matter of fact, if the story was completely taken away, it'd almost feel like you were playing an Atari 2600 game. With the exception of the water, which in some levels is pretty well animated, everything else just looks very blocky.
Then again, there is a reason it looks that way, but we'll get into that later.
Next we have gameplay. For the most part, Thomas plays out like any other puzzle platformer. You're given a level, and using your problem-solving skills and patterns, you figure out a way to maneuver through it. The D-pad of course maneuvers your movement, X is the jump option, and with the analog stick you can move around the map to scope out the level. The cool thing about it is your characters are your tools. While it's not the first game to do this concept, it's still fun to work with the gadgets of it. This includes characters that jump high, float, trampoline-like, anti-gravitational, can double jump, and even a cluster of characters. Each square helps each other reach the goal, which always consists of a mini-puzzle at the end that you have to stack and solve. The only thing I have to complain about is I feel that the jump option is a little belated. Look, I'm trying to jump on the ledge, and every time I press X it never goes up, only sometimes.
You really need to jam down this button if you want to jump. Otherwise you will fall into the abyss. Or disintegrate in water.
Moving on to score.
Now, most of these reviews, I take a lot of time raving how the soundtrack is amazing, and while this one doesn't overshadow the game, it does not disappoint at all.
The music usually consists of the piano or guitars and often quaint little techno beeps. As the game progresses, the music becomes more orchestral and powerful. Both styles captured the essence of the enclosed artificial environment, as well as giving a glimmer of hope for escape and wonder. The music was composed by David Housen, who had just graduated from college and was looking to get into game composition.
Initially, Hudson had a really hard time writing the music for the game when he found out that the characters were just rectangles with no faces, or nothing of human traits. But once he started attaching more human personalities to them, he found it a lot easier to write the music.
This soundtrack was complimented by some reviewers, as well as The Telegraph calling it a wonderful and understated score. At the 9th British Academy Video Game Awards, the game was nominated for both Best Story and Best Score. Though it lost both, they did walk away with the Best Performance by narrator Danny Wallace. Finally, let's talk about the story.
Like often Every Day the Same Dream, the story is probably the strongest aspect of the game, though unlike those two, where the story was very uneasy and bleak, this one stays clear to hopefulness, wonder, and never giving up.
The story begins with Thomas AT-23612, a small red rectangle AI who finds himself alone in the first level of his life. While he continues his journey of existence, he comes across a smaller orange rectangle named Christopher. As they progress, they meet other quadrilaterals with distinct personalities along their trip. Christopher, the small orange rectangle, has a bit of an inferiority complex due to the fact that he can't jump very high and is very small, though he often behaves himself in front of his crush, Laura. Laura is a flat pink rectangle who acts like a trampoline bouncing others off of her. She's a little wary of joining their group due to the fact that the other AIs have used her to just get to higher places. Jonathan is a tall yellow AI who has a super jump ability and seems to be the jock of the group, constantly wanting to show off to everyone. Claire is a large blue AI who dubs herself as a superhero due to the fact that she can swim, and is happy to help anyone around her. Later, Thomas meets James, who is his equal in regards of shape and moderate jumping ability, but is green and has an anti-gravitational pull to him. Last AI they meet is Sarah, who's extremely cocky in her double jumping abilities, though she's eager to join the group as well. Later, after the conclusion of the first storyline, other Grey AIs are introduced, including Grey, a rogue and selfish AI, the couple Sam and Joe, the elderly Paul, and the motivated cluster of 5, Team Jump. Throughout the different levels, we're also given these small commentaries by the creators of the rectangles, often commenting that the AIs have become self-aware and that the project was discontinued because of it. When it comes down to it, the story is pretty much about self-aware AIs who are searching for a higher place of being and to learn about the outside world.
Now, I also want to remind you that this entire story is not told through the voices of the characters. As a matter of fact, they are all silent.
Everything is narrated by British humorist Danny Wallace. Actually, Blithwell himself wrote the script of the game to match Wallace's humor, as well as novelist Douglas Adams. Wallace goes from narrating the actions of the characters
This would require coordination, balance, and timing.
to what they're thinking,
Chris took an immediate and deep dislike to the skinny red rectangle. Who the hell did this Thomas think he was?
and to what they're saying as well.
Up and to the right, they answered in unison.
It's all very well done, I have to say. Wallace really did earn that Best Performance BAFTA award. In conclusion, I got more out of this game than I expected. I usually don't care for 2D puzzle games, but this one, while not being too difficult, actually challenged me to the point of wanting to finish it. And that really is thanks to the wonderful story, likable, memorable characters, and a great soundtrack it provided. So if you're into that stuff, I'd say give it a try.
And who knows, maybe you'll find yourself wanting to reach a higher plane of existence, whether it be from dreaming, tripping, or just playing a video game. Where do you find yourself in this big game?